Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
This transcendental vibration by chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method for reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual soul, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. This illusion is called Maya, our hard struggle for existence, for winning over the stringent laws of material nature. This illusory struggle against the material nature can at once be stopped by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and the process is recommended by authorities for this age. By practical experience also, we can perceive that by chanting this Maha Mantra or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel transcendental ecstasy from the spiritual status. When one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of sense, mind and intelligence, one is situated on transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, surpassing all lower status of consciousness, namely sensual, mental and intellectual. There is no need of understanding the language of the mantra, nor there is any need of mental speculation, nor any intellectual advice.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisance is Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, you are very welcome to today's class. How are you, Maharaj? How is your
I
health?
am fine.
Thank you, Maharaj. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you, Maharaj. So I will mute everybody so there will be no background noise. We can start, Maharaj. Thank you.
So are you saying I should begin?
Yes, Maharaj, please. Yes, Maharaj.
All right. So I will start by singing the Mangalacharna prayers and leading a short kirtan.
Yes, Maharaj.
And then we will speak on today's very important verse from
Yes,
Srimad
Gurudev.
Bhagavatam. Okay. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lavita Shri Visakanditam Cha Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Srila Gurudeva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We shall be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti, Text 35. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhavesmin Klishyamananam Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Shavana Smarana Rani Karishyan Itikechana Bhavesmin Klishyamananam Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Shavana Smarana Rani Karishyan Itikechana. Bhave in the material creation, asmin, this, klishyamananam, of those who are suffering from, avidya, nescience, kama, desire, karma be, by execution of fruitive work, shravana, hearing, smarana, remembering, arhani, worshipping, karishyan, may perform, iti, thus, kechana, others. Translation. And yet others say that you appeared to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to reestablish the way of religion. Yes, Lord Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, abhutanam adharmasya atmanam shijamyaham. That, whenever there's a decline in religiousness and a predominant increase in irreligiousness, he descends. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. Paritranaya sadhunam, to deliver the devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, and to annihilate the miscreants. Dharma samstapanarthaya, and to reestablish the principles of religion. Sambhavami yuge yuge. The Lord appears in every millennium. So purport. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to reestablish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. Yes, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, that Dharma, or religion, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, is enacted by the Lord himself. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that no one can No one can enact the state laws other than the state. You cannot sit at home and manufacture your own laws. So in the same way, Dharmantu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam, only the Lord can enact religious laws. You cannot sit at home and manufacture your own religion. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. Srila Prabhupada explains that the word dharma is related to the root dre, and dre means inherent characteristic, that which cannot be separated from a particular thing. And so he gives the example that the dharma, or the natural characteristic of sugar, is to be sweet. If it's not sweet, it's not sugar. The natural characteristic, or dharma, of chili is to be hot. If it's not hot, it's not chili. So the natural characteristic of the living entity is to render service. By nature, the living entity must render service. So the question is, to whom to render service so that one becomes happy and satisfied. So a living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living being is to render service to the Lord. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms, Jive Swarapai Krishna Nityadasti. The constitutional position of the living entity, or jiva, is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. And when we act in our constitutional position, we're happy and satisfied. And otherwise we are frustrated and miserable. The Lord is great, and living entities are subordinate to him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is just to serve him only. Unfortunately, the illusioned living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servant of the senses by material desire. This desire is called avidya, or nescience. So this verse has many important words, and one of them is avidya, which means ignorance. or nescience. And due to avidya, or ignorance, the living entity, instead of rendering service to Krishna, which is his constitutional position, renders service to so many other things based on material designations. And bhakti begins when we become free from these material designations. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchite. So because of our designations, I am Indian, I am American, I am man, I am woman, I am Hindu, I am Christian, I am Muslim. Based on our designations, which are actually false conceptions of ourselves, we serve. But when we become free from designations and understand only Gopi Bhartu Padakamalaya or Dasadasa Anudas, that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the Gopi damsels of Vrindavan, we become happy and satisfied. That is our constitutional position. Jive Swarupai Krishna Nityadas. So this word avidya comes up in many places, and one place is in the Vishnu Purana, which says, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakya Tata Para Avidya Karma Samgyanya Tritiya Shaktir Ishyate. The potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in 3 categories, namely the spiritual potency, the living entities, and ignorance. The spiritual potency is full of knowledge. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment. And the third energy, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. And here in today's verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, we find the same idea, avidya, nescience, and karma by execution of fruitive work. So when we become free from avidya or nescience, we no longer engage in fruitive work or karma, but rather we engage in devotional service to Krishna, bhakti yoga. And bhakti yoga involves, as stated in this verse, shravanam, hearing, smaranam, remembering, arhani, and worshiping. Actually, there are 9 processes of devotional service, as stated by Sri Prahlad. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. And a devotee can attain success by engaging in 1 or 2 or all 9 of the processes of devotional service. So coming back to the purport, the Lord is great, and living beings are subordinate to him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is just to serve him only. Very clear. Unfortunately, the illusioned living beings are under the influence of Maya or avidya. Unfortunately, the illusioned living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the senses by material desire. This desire is called avidya or nescience. And out of such desire, the living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, he cannot get freed from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. So, as stated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. That Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like darkness. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. And where there is Krishna, there can be no darkness. And Srila Prabhupada used that aphorism as the basis of his masthead and Back to Godhead magazine, where we see the living entities in darkness and we see Krishna or Lord Chaitanya in the sunlight. So we do not counteract Maya or darkness separately, but by turning to Krishna, who is like the sun, the darkness of ignorance is automatically dissipated. So unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get freed from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service, comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. Adoption of all the above mentioned items or any one of them can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nescience and thus become liberated from all material sufferings created by the living being illusioned by the external energy. So, as Srila Prabhupada says here, one can engage in one or two or all 9 of the processes of devotional service and attain perfection. And there's a beautiful verse that explains how different devotees attain success. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22:135 says, Eka ange siddhi paila bahu bhaktagana ambarishadi bhaktera bahu anga sadhana. There are many devotees who execute only one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Nonetheless, they get ultimate success. Devotees such as Maharaj Ambarish execute all 9 items, and they also get ultimate success. And then this beautiful verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavad Vyasaki Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tadangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akrur Astvava Bandane Kapi Patir Dasye Tasakye Juna Sarva Svatma Nivedane Bale Abud Krishna Patire Shampara. Maharaj Parikshit attained the highest perfection, shelter at Lord Krishna's lotus feet, simply by hearing about Lord Vishnu. Shukadev Goswami attained perfection simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj attained perfection by remembering the Lord. The goddess of fortune attained perfection by serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Maharaj Prithu attained perfection by worshiping the deity. And Akrura attained perfection by offering prayers to the Lord. Hanuman attained perfection by rendering service to the Lord, Ramachandra. And Arjuna attained perfection simply by being Krishna's friend. Bali Maharaj attained perfection by dedicating everything to the Lord. So these are examples of devotees who attain perfection specifically by performing one of the 9 processes of devotional service. And then we have the example of Maharaj Ambarish, who engaged in all 9 processes. I'll just read the translation to save time. But yeah, it begins Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunana Varnane. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in the lotus feet of the Lord. His words in describing the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his hands in cleansing and washing the Lord's temple, his ears in hearing topics about the Supreme Lord, his eyes in seeing the deity of the Lord in the temple, his body in embracing Vaishnavas and touching their lotus feet, his nostrils in smelling the aroma of the tulsi leaves offered to Krishna's lotus feet, his tongue in tasting food offered to the Lord, his legs in going to places of pilgrimage such as Vrindavan and Mathura or the Lord's temple, his head in touching the lotus feet of the Lord and offering him obeisances, and his desires in serving the Lord faithfully. In this way, Maharaj Ambarish engaged his senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he awakened his dormant, loving propensity for the Lord's service. So coming back to this wonderful purport, adoption of all the above-mentioned items, or any one of them, can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nescience and thus become liberated from all material sufferings created by the living being, illusioned by the external energy. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we, as Srila Prabhupada says earlier, the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service, comprising of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. But in particular, the Lord, in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is most merciful, and for various reasons. One is, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna concludes, Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sarana praja, that the living beings should surrender unto him. And become his devotee. Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskar. But people could not understand how to become Krishna's devotee. And therefore Krishna came again as Sri Krishna Chaitanya to show us how actually to be devotees of Krishna. And Sri Krishna Chaitanya is also exceedingly merciful because he doesn't demand surrender to Krishna as Krishna did, but he simply distributes freely love of Godhead. And therefore he was accepted by Srila Rupa Goswami as the most munificent incarnation of Godhead. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha. Namo Mahavaranyaya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the most munificent incarnation of Godhead. Namo Mahavaranyaya. Krishna Prema Pradayate. Why? Because he is delivering Krishna Prema. Namo Mahavaranyaya. Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna. He's Krishna, but he's not in the blackish color of Krishna. But comes in the golden color, Gora Tushe Namaha. So we are exceedingly fortunate to be present in Kali Yuga, just 500 years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar, but Lord Chaitanya does not come in every Kali Yuga. Just like Krishna, he appeared in Dwapara Yuga, but Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, does not appear in every Dwapara Yuga. Perhaps only once in a day of Brahma, which is a long time, does Krishna appear in Dwapara Yuga. And Lord Chaitanya appears only in the Kali Yuga that follows the Dwapara Yuga in which Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, appears. So we're very, very fortunate. And even more so because we are followers of Srila Prabhupada, who has really fulfilled the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya predicted Prativiteya Chejato Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachor Hoibe Marnam, that in every town and village of every country of the world, my name or Krishna's name would be sung or preached. And it was Srila Prabhupada who fulfilled the prediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and adjusted everything in a way that is very suitable for us and very easy for us and very blissful for us. So we are so fortunate, and we should take advantage of our good fortune by giving ourselves fully to the practice of Bhakti Yoga as given to us by Srila Prabhupada in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. And we should also share our good fortune with others by preaching Krishna consciousness. And that will please Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna very much. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that the preacher is his dearmost servant. There will never be one more dear to him than he. And in the end, devotional service is guaranteed to him, and he will go back home, back to Godhead. So, yeah, Srila Prabhupada has given us everything. We just have to accept the mercy that he has given us and share the mercy with others. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for this wonderful class and narrations. Please, anybody has question, kindly raise your hand. Guru Maharaj, I have one question from the papers. when Prabhupada mentioned that the living entity entangles himself in the chains of transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. We entangle ourselves, and the Supreme Lord is directing us to different bodies. But at the end, he said, this special mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, end of the papers. So my question now is, why is it that when we said nothing moves without the will of God, he allowed us to entangle ourselves, and he's still directing us to different bodies and on different planets? So one can ask, where is the mercy?
Yes. Someone raised this question with Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, in my presence, that not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada replied that there are two kinds of sanction, willing and unwilling or reluctant. Just like, if the son tells the father, I want to go to school, the father will give his sanction willingly. But if the son tells the father he wants to, whatever, go out and get intoxicated, the father will say, no, don't do that. That's not good for you. But if the son insists and insists and insists, the father will say, all right, if you're so determined, then all right, you can do it. So he gives his sanction, but reluctantly. And so we want to do things that will please the Lord, and that he will be happy to permit us to do. Yeah, we don't want to do things that, yes, he'll give his sanction because he doesn't interfere with our free will, but he'll give it reluctantly because he knows it's not in our best interest.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Our next question is from the chat room from Narottam Prabhu. Narottam, please unmute yourself. Hold on. Narottam Prabhu, unmute your mic.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, todas las glorias a Srila Prabhupada, todas las glorias a Gurudev y a los Vaishnavas. Yo tengo una pregunta que me la va a traducir Narottam.
I have a question which I will be translating.
Okay.
El señor Chaitanya Mahaprabhu viene cada 1000 Kali Yugas.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes every 1000 Kali Yugas.
¿Qué pasa con los 999 Kali Yugas que no viene? ¿Cómo el Señor hace de que se renueve el servicio devocional?
What happens in the other 900 Kali Yugas in which he doesn't come? How does he do to reinstall the devotional service to the Lord?
No, in every Kali Yuga, there's a Yuga avatar, and he promulgates, or you could say promotes, the Yuga Dharma of Harinam Sankirtan. That is every Kali Yuga. But those Yuga avatars are not Sri Krishna Chaitanya, not the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, with the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. So again, we're very fortunate to be in this Kali Yuga. Claro? So yeah, I see a few hands up.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you. Next question is from Ganga Prashad Prabhu. Ganga, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, your blessings is at your lotus feet. God bless you, Guru and Goranga, God bless you, Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for all the sessions you was here. They are very illuminating. Today, in the course of your lecture, you mentioned that Mahaprabhu appeared and Lord Krishna also appeared in the day of Lord Brahma. And in Bhagavatam somewhere during the description of the advent of Vyasadeva, this is re-echoed that during the millennium where there was overlapping of Dwapara taking before Treta Yuga. So my question is, at that overlapping, immediately after the overlapping, Kali Yuga came. Did it mean that in that circle there was no Treta Yuga? I just need a clarification on that.
No, there was Treta Yuga. There will always be the four, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. But it's true, sometimes the order is reversed, but the four will always be there.
Yeah, my lack of understanding is, if Krishna came in Dwapara Yuga and at the end of Dwapara Yuga, it was Kali and Chaitanya Kali Yuga, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in the Kali Yuga. Then
Yeah.
when did the Treta Yuga appear? If there was overlapping, that is what I need clarification.
Oh, I don't know if I can answer that question. Do you know where it's written?
In Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 4, text appearance of Vyasadeva, chapter 4, in what?
Canto 1, chapter 4.
Yeah,
And which text?
about text 12. Text number 12. Let me be sure. I can cite it quickly.
Okay.
I'll cite it.
Oh, I'll read it because it's all nectar. The translation. Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. So now,
Maharaj is text 14, please.
oh, okay.
Text 14. Sorry. 1414.
Okay. Sutta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parasara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. Purport. There is a chronological order of the four millenniums, namely Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali Yuga. But sometimes there is overlapping, and the third millennium appeared prior to the second. In that particular millennium, Lord Sri Krishna also descends. And because of this, there was some particular alteration. the mother of the great sage was Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu, fisherman, and the father was the great Parasara Muni. So now what is your question?
My question is, if there is four ages in every circle, every yuga, and Dwapar Yuga overlapped Treta, and immediately after the Dwapar came Kali Yuga that Mahaprabhu appeared. Then when did Treta Yuga appear? That's my question.
You mean in that particular cycle?
Yes, Maharaj. Although at the last statement, the one you are about to read, that same purport, Prabhupada was mentioned that every millennium is divided into 3 periods, and each period is called Sandhya. That's where my confusion is. 4 and 3.
The last line.
Yeah, Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya of that particular age. Well, to me, it seems sort of clear that that Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya, which was Dwapar Yuga, like same as Krishna. I mean, maybe I'm not catching your question exactly, but in these 4, again, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. So Krishna appeared in the third, and Vyasadeva also appeared in the third. And so therefore it said Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya of that particular age. I mean, there may be a little ambiguity because of the English. Because
no, Maharaj, my confusion is, if there is Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali, 4, and then Dwapar overlaps Kali. I mean, Dwapar overlaps Treta. Dwapar Yuga overlapped Treta Yuga, means Dwapar came before Treta. But immediately after the Dwapar, Kali Yuga came. Does it mean in that circle of 4, Treta Yuga was not there? That is my question. That's my confusion. Dwapar Yuga overlapped.
Yeah, but I don't think overlap means that it covers it. It's still there. Let's see. There's a comment in the chat.
Yeah, Vanjal is saying she doesn't think there is. See, I think there are 4 epochs, and each epoch has 3 epochs, right? The last chart, the comment on this.
Oh, she's saying that there are 4 ages, and each age has 3 sections.
Yes.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, everything has 3 sections, like beginning, middle, and end. So that's true.
Ravichandra said Treta came before Dwapar this time.
That's true, too.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Take our next question from Sadev Prabhu. Sadev, please unmute.
We have so many wise and learned sages in this assembly.
Maharaj, you are amazing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for blessing our forum again. Thank you so much. My question has to do with the 9 processes of devotional service.
Yes.
Uh, Prabhupada was explaining, and you also explained that one can practice just one of the 9 and attain perfection. So you gave example of Arjuna being friends with Krishna. I once had a philosophical debate with one senior devotee who was saying that as a practicing devotee, at some point when you become advanced, the spiritual master becomes your friend. And my argument was that cannot be the case because, of course, I'm yet to learn. I don't think I ever heard Srila Prabhupada ever referring to his guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, as his friend. That your guru is forever your guru. There will never come a point the guru will become your friend. So Arjuna was a friend to Krishna. Did that friendship make Arjuna become perfect, or he was already perfect before his friendship with Arjuna? And how does friendship with Krishna help one attain perfection? I do not see how on this material plane one can be friends with Krishna and attain perfection, since almost all of us are sinful anyway. So that's my question. Hare Krishna.
Yes, that's a good point. That to become a friend of Krishna like Arjuna in a direct relationship of with Krishna, you're already perfect. That's true. But in some places, such as in the Nectar of Devotion, I believe, Srila Prabhupada explains that, being a friend to Krishna, like Krishna wants us to preach the message of the Bhagavad Gita. And so we're being a friend to Krishna if we take up his order to preach. So in that sense, we can be, friends to Krishna. And as far as the spiritual master, there is one place where Srila Prabhupada does use the word friend to refer to his spiritual master. And that is in the concluding words to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada refers to his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as his eternal spiritual master, guide, and friend. But it's not just friendship. That would not be appropriate with the spiritual master. But it's with being spiritual master and being guide. But Prabhupada did say that, my eternal spiritual master, guide, and friend.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Our next question is from Pamanand Suya Prakash. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
My question is that how Yada Yada Hital Marsha, Kamil Bhavati Bhavrata, Agritana Mandal Marsha, how does it, this mantra, relate to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Oh, yes, he performed those functions. That particular verse he performed exactly. But the other verse, Parichanaya Sadhanam Vinashaya Chadis, that could be a question, that how did he, yes, to deliver the devotees we can understand, but to destroy the miscreants. How did he do that? But Srila Prabhupada explains that in other ages, when Krishna comes, he kills the demons. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't kill them, but he killed their demonic mentality.
Okay.
Yeah, because generally Krishna comes as a Kshatriya and he kills. Ramachandra was a Kshatriya, he killed. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a Brahmin, so he didn't kill them physically, but he killed their demonic mentality.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Excellent.
Emma Gori Dasi on the chat room, still on the Treta Yoga. She said, Guru Maharaj, I heard in one lecture of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami recently that when Krishna had to appear, he switched the yugas because Lord Chaitanya had to appear after Krishna. So in that circle, Treta came before Dwapara Yuga. That is all. That's what she had in the lecture of Bhakti Charu Swami. When Krishna want to appear, he switches the yugas.
Okay.
We have another question in the chat room from Ghana. Dr. George Amega is asking, Hare Krishna Maharaj, in this era of the pandemic, devotees are praying very much for the Lord to deliver us, and yet no solution has been found yet. Then the question is, Maharaj, is it because the prayers of the devotees are not fervent enough to attract the Lord, or perhaps there is no possibility of any form of what is it? Perhaps there's no possibility of mercy. The devotees have been praying, no solution according to him for the pandemic. Is it that devotees are not praying enough, or there's no possibility?
He's saying that devotees have been praying for the pandemic to end,
Yes.
but it still hasn't ended.
Yes.
Does it mean that the devotees' prayers are not sincere enough? Or, frankly speaking, that's an odd prayer for a devotee. Generally, devotees pray only for service. And we can engage in service whether there's pandemic or not. I mean, due to the pandemic, we may be limited in certain respects, but we can still engage in devotional service. So I would suggest that we pray, for the Lord to show us how best to serve him during the pandemic rather than to pray for the pandemic to end. And some places, they're actually doing more book distribution now than they were doing before the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't think we, as devotees, we should pray for the pandemic to end. I mean, we might want it to end. If we can phrase it in terms of service, then we could possibly include the pandemic ending in the prayer. But it seems a bit out of place to pray for the pandemic to end.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Our next question is from Malati Dasi. Please unmute.
Malati.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your divine grace. Guru Maharaj, whatever we desired in our past lives, or even if when we become devotees, we have material desires when we join ISKCON. So only after practicing devotional service and serving the Vaishnavas, then we understand that what we desired was a wrong choice. So now what, like the desire still continues, or Krishna understands that it was in ignorance, that desire is like, okay, fine, that is not fulfilled because that was a wrong choice by a devotee. So I just wanted to know like what happens.
Well, Krishna says that if a devotee approaches him for material purposes, that person is very foolish. But Krishna says, but I am very wise, so I will deal with that person in such a way that he will not come to me again and again with his or her material desires. So that is that is Krishna's mercy. Yeah. So
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Another question again from Sahadev Prabhu. Sahadev, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, my Gurudev gave me an instruction that I do not fully understand, and I'm praying and begging of you that you help explain it to me. When it became evident that my Gurudev was going to leave his physical body, I planned to approach him to get a personal and direct instructions from him before he departs. But I was also afraid because I was afraid if I went to see him and he told me a particular thing to do and it became very difficult for me to do, then what do I do? But I also wanted to get the last instructions from him. So when I went to see him at the Institute House, he gave me just three word instructions. So I met him. I said, Maharaj, now we know you're going to leave us, so I came to see you for your final instructions. What do I do in your physical absence? And he told me, just love Krishna. And it's been about 16 years. I still don't fully understand what it means by just love Krishna. So I'm begging of you to help me understand what that means so that I can try to fulfill it. Hare Krishna.
that was a good instruction, and you can fulfill it by making advancement in bhakti. As Srila Rupa Goswami explains, there are 9 stages: Adoshada, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya, Tata Anartha Vritti Set, then Nishta Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhava, and Prema. So these are the 9 stages. Now, pure love for Krishna is Prema. But as Srila Prabhupada has explained, all the 9 stages are basically developments of the same essence. And so Shraddha, no Shraddha, faith and attraction, it just becomes thicker and more condensed, and then eventually it becomes prema. Prabhupada also gave the example of a ripe mango and an unripe mango. They're both mangoes, but one is, hard and green and sour, and the ripe mango is sweet and juicy, like nectar. So by making progress from Shraddha to Prema, you are, you're fulfilling that instruction to love Krishna. And the love, in a way, Shraddha, or that initial faith, that attraction, is love, but it's a preliminary stage of love. And you can progress through those different stages. He's given you a lifetime of service. Fulfill that one instruction of 3 words.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Our next question is from Subarada Das. Please unmute. Subarada.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. I just had a question. As we advance in Krishna consciousness, we see that these material desires that are there, they are just a waste of time. So how do we get rid of these material desires? Because there's like constantly they keep on attacking us, I feel. So what do we do?
Well, you tolerate them, but you don't act upon them. I don't think it's a serious thing that that you have thoughts of material enjoyment because of conditioning. We have those, but we should not act on them. If we act on them, we'll become entangled. And this whole the verse we discussed today is on that very topic. So, kama means desires, and karma means execution of fruitive work. So, we may have kama, desires, because of conditioning, but we should not engage in the fruitive work to fulfill those desires. But we should persevere in bhakti and just tolerate the desires. And, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that that a learned person or a wise person is not disturbed by desires, which flow like rivers into the ocean, but the ocean is not disturbed. So the desires are there, may be there, but we are not disturbed by them, just like the ocean is not disturbed by the water of the rivers that flow into it. Don't act on them.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. I wanted to come back to the verse of today, where Krishna is saying, what Prabhupada is saying on the purport, in the beginning of the purport. That in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that He appears in every millennium just to reestablish the ways of religion. Then He said in the second line, the way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new part of religion as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. So my question is, in ISKCON, for example, many people open so many religious, their own, trying to imitate Prabhupada. Even most of Prabhupada disciples.
They do what? Many people in ISKCON do what?
Some people who left ISKCON, they want to open their own kind of preaching movement outside ISKCON. But this purport is saying, Prabhupada is saying no one should manufacture a new part of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. My question now is, was Prabhupada directly talking to his disciples not to leave the ISKCON and form another movement after him?
Well, he did want his disciples to remain in ISKCON. I mean, there is one statement in a purport in Srimad Bhagavatam in which Srila Prabhupada says that anyone who thinks that he can make progress in spiritual life outside the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is living in a delusion.
Jai! Jai! Oh, Hare Krishna.
I mean, he gave his life to ISKCON. He said ISKCON is his body. So, yeah, we should be faithful to ISKCON. I mean, there are, anyway, I think that would be the essence of my answer. We should.
Thank you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Another question from Pamanand Suya Prakash again. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj again. I want to know whether, sorry if ever this is a silly question. I want to know if ever to serve God or to surrender to God and to love God, is it the same?
What was the first one?
Is loving God, surrendering to God, and to love God, is it the same level?
Well, surrender, we can surrender. Again, it's the same thing. It's like the ripe mango and the unripe mango. We can surrender without full development of love, but there must be some love, otherwise we would not surrender.
Mm-hmm.
At least there will be faith, adoshrada. At least there will be faith, and as we discussed, faith is like a preliminary stage of love. And yeah, in some talks, Srila Prabhupada said that his disciples love him, otherwise they would not surrender. If they didn't love him, they would not surrender to his instructions. So, yeah.
Maharaj, he also mentioned 7, love, surrender, or serving, if they are the same.
Yeah. I mean, they're all related. I mean, one could conceivably do service reluctantly, begrudgingly, which, but even in that case, there has to be some love. There has to be some little touch of love. Otherwise, there won't be surrender, there won't be service.
Yeah, Maharaj, there was a lecture of Prabhupada where he was, I forgot the title of the lecture, where he was mentioning that a man loves the wife. That's why he work hard to please the wife. If you don't love your wife, you cannot serve her, or she cannot serve you. So love and service and surrender is, like you said, it's actually linked together. Prabhupada said, if you don't love a partner, your wife or husband, you can't surrender to the person and you cannot serve the person. So love must be there to do service and surrender.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your kind lecture today. Anybody has more questions? Maharaj, I don't know how long you have for us, or do we let you go and take rest?
I'm not going to take rest. That means you want to take rest.
We don't want to disturb you so much. Okay. Okay, we have another question again from Malati. That's it, please. Malati, please unmute.
Guru Maharaj, it is just a continuation of my previous question. Actually, I want to clear, like the question was, it was asked by one of my friend that she desired something when she was not a devotee. She was just beginner. Then now at this stage, she feels that what she desired once, it was a wrong desire. Now she is praying that that desire should not go on, like, but it's still coming in front of her, those desires, and she's praying for it. So is it that her prayers will work after some time, or what is it like? It's still going on in her life.
So she has the desire, but she's not acting on it. So it will go away. Yeah, in one conversation with me, Srila Prabhupada said that the different demands of the senses are like itching. And if you scratch them, that, you might get some temporary relief, but then they'll come back worse. So it's better to tolerate. And then gradually the itching will subside and go away. So I think your friend should just tolerate and not act on those desires, and eventually they will go away.
Thank you, Maharaj. Next question from Ganga Prasad, Prabhu. Ganga, please.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. From the purport and from the lecture you gave, you elucidated on the 9 processes of devotion. And it is mentioned adoption of all the above mentioned items or any of them can help a condition to get out of the tangle of the science and thus become liberated. Now, I want you to help me reconcile this fact. He said of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is most important. So how do we relate that with this statement here in the purport?
Yes. I mean, there are certain preliminary items of devotional service mentioned in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And they begin with Ado Guru Padashraya, to accept the shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Diksheti, to take initiation from him. Shiksheti, and to follow his instructions. So as you quoted, Srila Prabhupada has said that, of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the instruction for the neophyte to chant a minimum of 16 rounds is most essential. So we should do that. Yeah, I don't think we can imitate these devotees who attain perfection by those different methods, because it's an offense against the holy name, Gurara Bhagya, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. The spiritual master given the order to chant 16 rounds minimum, so we have to do that.
Gumaraj, I have one question. Somebody asked me, I want you to help me give him a reply. He told me he made a vow he must be in Vrindavan and Mayapur once every year. But due to the COVID-19, he won't be going to India for the next 3 years. And he's scared about the vow he made in Vrindavan, if it will have consequences on him. I said, I'm not a guru. I will ask a guru to answer that question.
Yeah, I think that, as Srila Prabhupada said, one can suspend the order of the spiritual master, but one can never neglect it. So, he did make a vow, but he has to suspend it because of COVID. And when the opportunity arises, he can fulfill that vow. Yeah, I think of something my dear godbrother Bhuijan Prabhu often says, which is, we always have to be practical in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So people should stop making all kind of vows because we're in the material world. Now his vow he's scared about his vow. Oh God.
He can take up his vow after the pandemic.
That's good. Thank you. Somebody has a question on the chat room. Who is this? Jason, Hare Krishna. May I please ask a question? It is an offense to not follow the instruction of a spiritual master. Not follow the instruction of a spiritual master. But what if it is not your own spiritual master? I have received instructions that I have not been able to follow, and I am very remorseful and seeking advice how to remedy it.
Well, the main obligation is to your spiritual master to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Of course, for us in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Shiksha Guru, the preeminent Shiksha Guru. So we should follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and we should follow the instructions of our personal spiritual master. But if another Vaishnava, who's not officially your spiritual master, gives an instruction, you should also try to follow it, because, as Srila Prabhupada said, we should address each other as Prabhu. Prabhu means master, which means that we're servants of the other Prabhus. So we should also try to follow their instructions if they don't contradict the instruction of our spiritual master. And if he feels remorseful, I can't really give a specific answer unless unless Jason gives more information.
Jason, would you like to speak? Jason, kindly unmute your mic and clarify, please.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you.
Jason, is it possible for Maharaj to see your face, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, can you see my face?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. it's me, Jason from Radha Kalachandji's Dham.
Yes, Jason.
Maharaj, something's really been on my mind. I met with you like maybe, I think it was like maybe 4 years ago. I met with you and I told you that I had a problem that I was taking prasad after waking up my deities, and you had asked me to wake up at 3:30 and then shower and wake my deities up at 3:50 and then go to Mangalarti. And so I remembered that. And you also asked me to shave my hair once a month, and honestly, I wanted to ask forgiveness and beg for that, because I've been able to send it to Mangalarti, still have not been able to wake up at 30 every and wake my deities up before going to Mangalarti. And I also haven't shaved my head once a month. And so I really just wanted to beg forgiveness from you and ask. I don't know how to do it, because in my job I work. Sometimes I don't get home until like 11, 12. And it's been kind of like a schedule conflict to wake up at 3:30, but sometimes I'm able to wake up at 4 and go to Mongol Arti. I just wanted to ask what I should do to remedy my offenses and apologize for them.
Well, I absolve you of those of following those instructions, because time, place, and circumstance, the situation has changed. But why would you be unable to shave once a month?
Yeah, I'm absolutely able to do that. And so that's where I just want to be honest and beg your forgiveness, and then I guess I am able to do that. So I guess I can do it. I just wanted to apologize, because after really thinking about the 10 offenses, of which almost all of them I am an offender, I guess I've been meditating more about it, and I'm getting to the point where I want to not be an offender, but I'm realizing how much of an offender that I am, and so it's in my consciousness to try not to offend, and so when I realized how offending one of the offenses is to not follow the instructions of a spiritual master such as yourself, then I wanted to basically just beg forgiveness for that, and correct it if I know I'm able to at least shave up once a month, as you said, but waking up at 3:30, I'm having a very difficult time waking up at 3:30 and having my deities awake by 3:50 and then making it to Mongol Arti. I'm struggling very much with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if you don't get back from work until 11, I can see that it would be different.
It's only sometimes. Sometimes I can get back from work earlier, but the schedule is like it's not all the time 11. It's sometimes 11, sometimes 9. It just varies. It's not really set in stone. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you get back earlier, then it's good to do what we discussed. But if you get back late, then you can do your duties later.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
I must say that amidst all of your offenses or so-called offenses, you did a good service because you pointed out to Sridham Prabhu of Krishna culture that he needed more copies of Watering the Seed and Many Moons and Life's Final Exam. So that was a nice service you offered.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes. By your mercy, we actually have a full stock now. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. We have a question again from Sahadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I believe this will be my last question for today. I always have so many questions. Maharaj, my question is, it's just speculative in the sense that when Krishna says, yada yada hi dharmasya, like Sri Prabhupada said that in the purport, the first line in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. If Krishna says he appears, I want to be corrected. I think that when Krishna says he appears, he says that to our benefit, but he does not appear because he is always here. And the reason I'm thinking he's always here is that, our human earthly time is indescribable. It's like 1/zillionth of seconds. Because if Mahavishnu's just one breath, it constitutes the entire lifespan of Lord Brahma. And if Krishna is coming here, I cannot just understand when does he take a step out of Vaikuntha to come to this earth plane and then takes a step back. By the time he does that, Lord Brahma might have been dead like maybe billion times. So how then do we say that Krishna appears and disappears? So I'm thinking that appearing is just for us as humans to understand that, or to assume that Krishna is coming, but Krishna is always here. He just does not manifest to our purview depending on the time and circumstance. And when he wants to reveal himself, he reveals himself. I don't know if I'm right in such thinking, because I'm thinking that Krishna is always here. He only manifests and unmanifests. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You are absolutely right. Krishna is always everywhere. So when we say he appears, we mean that he, as you said, he makes himself manifest to people who cannot ordinarily see him. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Sandasadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. Generally, Krishna is seen only by those who have love for him. But when we say Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, we mean that he allowed everyone to see him. Even demons could see him. But otherwise, yes, Krishna is always everywhere. And if we smear our eyes with the salve of love of God, we can see him. all the time.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for your nice answer, nice class. In the absence of no more hand up, then we ask all devotees to kindly unmute your mic and let's chant powerful Hare Krishna for Guru Maharaj for coming.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama.
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Thank
Krishna.
you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Ki.
Jai.
Guru Maharaj.
So if we're going to end now, I suggest we conclude with Vaishnav Pranam.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam praveshnavyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Antakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki,
Ki Jai.
the Prabhupada ki.
Should be avoided.
His Holiness
And
Giriraj Maharaj ki
mixing
jai.
and mix of excitement causes poisonous effect. The word hara is the form of adoration, the energy of the Lord.
It is people like Maharaj. Maharaj is the first person to go to Nigeria.
Form of adoration directly
Here,
to
man.
God. And they
Prabhupada sent
make
to
the
Nigeria to
highest
collect
pleasure.
for Bombay.
Hara is the supreme pleasure
Collect
potency
for
of the
Bombay.
Lord. This
And you have to
potency
collect
and
it for 100
address
people.
as Hare helps us in reaching the supreme Lord. The material energy called as Maya is also one of the multi-potencies of the Lord, as much as we are also marginal potency of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior energy than matter. When the superior energy is in contact with inferior energy, it becomes an incompatible situation. But when the supreme marginal potency is in contact with spiritual potency, Hara, it becomes the happy, normal condition of living entity. The three words, namely Hara, Krishna and Ram, are transcendental seeds of the Mahamantra, and the chanting is spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, for giving protection
Maharaj is
to
like,
the condition
I don't
of
know.
soul. The chanting is
Now he
exact,
is
like
a
Jai
day
Raj and
before
Jai.
us. See, we one day ahead. Maybe like night. And she's an Indian, but she's in Spain, lives in Spain.